Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and yeah, it's that point in the season now. The struggle for content is here, and you know what that means. Wheel out a tier list. Just wheel it on out. In all seriousness, I'm hoping that this summer provides us a lot of topics and conversation because I don't want it to be slow. But in times like this, when the season is over and we aren't quite kick-starting the 22-23 campaign yet, you've got to fill the void with something, and there's nothing better to do that with than a tier list. Everyone loves a tier list. They're fun. It offers engaging conversation. You guys can kind of join in and put your tier lists in the comments. It's a little bit better than nothing. And today, it's no different. We're going to do the end of season squad tier list, the same as what we done last year on the podcast, but for this season heading into next season. Now, just very quickly, I'll throw up on screen how that tier list ended from last year. That was I had Barkas an important. God, my bias knew no bounds. That was a disaster of a squad tier list, and it was very different to where we are now doing this one, because last season we knew we were heading into a rebuild and so much was going to change. There was so many players who had to leave, there was so many players we had to sign. We didn't quite know where everyone lay in the pecking order in terms of their importance heading into a new era under a new manager. So this season it's a lot easier, and I think everybody kind of picks their places themselves, but they still offer conversation, and there is obviously that aspect of my own opinion that goes into it. So we're going to sit down and do mine today for the season we're going into, and who I think should stay or where they should go, or blah blah blah, all of that. And let's hope it's a little bit better than the one we done on the podcast last season. We don't need to talk about Shane Duffy or Diego Laxalt or John Joe Kenny. This time we've got a little bit of a better variety to pick from. There's a game on tonight, isn't there? Is it Northampton Mansfield? I think that's the one. Should be a good watch. Before we go any further with the video though, and before we get into the tier list, you know what to do. Go down below and hit like and subscribe. Very close to 34,000 subscribers. We're stuttering over the line, but we're nearly there. So if you haven't done that, please drop down below and do it. It's much appreciated. It's absolutely free. And you'll get a summer worth of content from myself. So bang, here it is on screen, the tier list itself. We've organised it into 6 beautiful rows. One of the rows has already been decided. We have this sad face down and gone. Real tears. I don't really want to talk about it more than I already have with Rogic and Nearbeaton. I got pulled up in the comments of the podcast yesterday. Someone was saying an hour and a half of talking and he didn't once acknowledge the icon that is Tom Rogic. I done a full half-hour live stream trying to fight back my tears the other day. My bad that I wanted to try and keep things relatively positive. I love Tom Rogic, and thank you for your services, Tom. If you happen to be somehow watching this video, you will be sadly missed, hence the sad face in the gone row here. And Nearbeaton as well, sad to see him go. He's been a really good servant to the club, 9 years at Celtic. You know, that doesn't go unappreciated, but they too have already decided their fate. There's no point in me putting them in needs sold because, well, we're not exactly selling them. They're just moving on from the club. So it's a shame. It's sad. And, you know, there'll be plenty of times where we reminisce of both players, and there'll be plenty of times we offer our appreciation to them. And I'm really glad of what they've helped achieve this season. But yeah, they're off next season, and that's simply that. So that row's already been decided. So then the other rows must sign, which will, you know what that's about. We'll come to that. Important, first team, squad, find a loan maybe, and needs sold. There's got to be a few conversations. I think most people are reasonably straightforward. As I said, this is much easier than last year, to be honest, but it's content nonetheless. And also, I don't want to be here all day with this one because tier lists can take a hell of a lot of time, and I do want to change that today. Let's get through this quick fire. Right, we're going to go in the order that the list has given us, so it's no particular order. Yeah, Liera Bada, let's just, yeah, okay, that's easy. That's really fucking easy. Brilliant, burst onto the scene fantastically, still only 20 years of age. Sadly losing his friend Nearbeaton, but he has got so much to offer this club heading into the future, and I think he could be a big star at Celtic and out with Celtic in the future of his career, so that's easy. Here's the first one where conversation actually does come up, and it's Albion Ajeti, a guy who was signed by Neil Lennon for Neil Lennon and really hasn't found a place under Ange Postecoglou. We've seen him a couple of times over the course of the season. He chipped in with goals at Real Betis, for example, but realistically, I think Ajeti needs to be sold, and I've been someone who's tried my best to back Ajeti throughout the entirety of his time here at Celtic, I was a massive advocate for us signing him. And I was a massive advocate for him while he was here, and I wanted him to do well. But we're now at the point where you've got Georgios Giakoumakis, you've got Kyogo Furuhashi, and you've just got him sitting there doing nothing. So I think it's reasonably straightforward. I think that Ajeti's time at Celtic has probably come to an end, to be quite honest, by Albion. Scott Bain, someone who I would personally have down here, but we gave him that contract extension, if you remember, kind of midway through the season, and I think his place at Celtic is set. I think that he's happy, and the club and the manager is happy to have him around, and I'm not going to moan about that if they kind of see that as the best thing to do. I think we can certainly have better options than Scott Bain off of the bench. I think that Barkas is a better option than Scott Bain off of the bench, but I think his place is kind of set at Celtic as that squad player. So maybe surprisingly I've got him up here. As I said, if it was up to me, I'd probably have him down and selling him, but I suppose it doesn't really create much of an issue for Celtic. He won't be on a high wage. No one's exactly going to pay much money for him, and he is, he's not the worst keeper in the world. So I guess just keeping him around for the numbers and filling out that free goalkeeper quota probably works best for Celtic. And I can understand why they probably do want to keep him here if he's happy to be sitting on a bench. You know what I mean? Talking about keepers, Barkas, I just sign him a new contract. I do. You know me, I love Barkas, but it's that point now for the better of his career and the better of his employers, Celtic. I think it is at that period of time now where we just need to realistically sit down and say he needs sold. I'll be crying, I will be devastated. I don't want him to go, but he's never going to replace Joe Hart. I don't think he's even going to get above Scott Bain in the pecking order. He's made one appearance competitively all season. His career at Celtic is pretty much done. So yeah, are we going to make back much money on what we spent on Vasilis Barkas? Probably not, but I think it's probably Celtic's best interest to sell the player now. Sadly, can I just reiterate, I am very sad. I'm not turning on Barkas. I'm not betraying him like Judas with a kiss. I'm simply saying that I believe his time is probably over at the club. Just like the man beside him. Christ, 3 in a row, basically, of players that need sold. Or 3 out of 4, I think. Bolingoli. He had a loan move to Russia, which obviously collapsed amongst everything that's going on over there. And he's just kind of there, isn't he? He's another guy who is just, you forget is actually at the club. You forget that we actually spent money on him. Another player that I'm not very confident will make money back on, but he will probably leave as well in the summer. I think they'll be trying to find him a move. The question is who wants Bolingoli, but that's another no-brainer for me. He's not going to get in ahead of Taylor at the moment. We're looking to sign other left backs as well. I think it's all she wrote for Bolingoli. Carl Starfelt, that's very easy. Important, very important in fact. What a season, what a player. Came on leaps and bounds from his introduction to Celtic to where we are now. And I've backed him since day one. I really like Carl Starfelt. I think that he's got a big future as well with us. Signed at a really good age. He could be really core to our success defensively. For a number of years now, I think Carl Starfelt. So I think that's an easy one that picks itself as well. Just like the majority of our starters, to be quite honest. But we'll come to them as we get there. Carter Vickers, must sign. It is a must sign. And I'm confident. And let's just do the 2-in-1 here, shall we? Let's get Jota and Carter Vickers up into must sign. These are obviously the 2 lone players who we don't quite know their future yet. We don't know if they're going to be staying at Celtic or if they're going to return to their parent clubs. The murmurs and the rumours would suggest they will sign for Celtic, but of course it's take everything with a pinch of salt. But these are 2 guys we should be breaking bank for. I would pay as much as £20 million for the pair of them. 10 million each. I would do it. If I was in charge, I would do it. I don't know if Celtic will work like that. Plus, I don't think we even need to pay as much for Jota, but I'm just hypothetically speaking, if that was the asking price, I would be paying it. These are 2 of the best players I've seen at Celtic in recent years in their respective positions. I've said that Vickers is probably the best centre-half I've seen since Van Dijk, and Jota is one of the most talented players I've seen at Celtic, full stop. We should be doing everything in our power to make sure they sign for the club this summer, and hopefully the positive news comes around to us very, very quickly. Of course, we've got to wait and see what happens after their holidays and such. They're over enjoying Ibiza right now with the rest of the squad, or some of the squad. So that's all positive signs. I'm really kind of hopeful seeing all those clips and images of them on holiday, thinking, yeah, they'll come and sign for us. Hopefully it's not one last hurrah. We need to get him signed. Dane Murray.
Who?
I forgot he even existed. Find a loan. I know he plays for the B team now and then and everything else in between, but he's not played senior level since we needed him very early days this season. So I don't want to give a harsh judgment and say, hey, let's get rid of him. He's still very young. Could do something at Celtic in the future. We don't know. I didn't think he looked brilliant when he was playing for the senior level right back at the start of the season, but then again he was ushered in at a point of panic for Celtic where we had no options and he was really relied on to kind of give us some stability. So once again, I think it would be harsh to give him any sort of judgment that would be, above or below, because he's really just a kind of in the middle player, isn't he? James Forrest, just the exact same as Scott Bain. If it was up to me this season, I would be moving him on in the summer. Just personally, I know a lot of people will probably get offended by that because he is a kind of club legend. But he will be a squad player. He's signed a 3-year deal. But I do understand the importance, and this is where I'll be fair about it. I understand the importance in keeping some form of continuity between that squad of past and future. We only have him and McGregor now. If Forrest, say, was to leave this summer, we genuinely only have McGregor around the team from that Invincible season. And that wasn't even that long ago. So I understand the importance of keeping someone around who knows Celtic, who knows what the club is and what it's about. And I don't think we're a club that should just make room for sentimentality, but there is a certain amount of importance that goes alongside that continuity aspect at the club. So I can understand why Forrest is staying. And ultimately, he's someone who, has worked hard at Celtic for the best part of a decade. He's been, vital in some of our biggest wins. So, I can understand. I'm not hurt that he's staying. I'm not complaining that he's staying. If it was up to me, I just think he was kind of done with Celtic. I didn't think he would offer much to us, but just like Scott Bain, if he's happy to stick around and be in the position that he's in, then it probably suits both parties. Once again, I'd imagine he's probably taking a wage cut, maybe. But yeah, James Forrest into the squad area we go. Let's go 3 quick fires because there's 3 in a row here that are easy. Giakoumakis, Joe Hart and Rio Hatate, all important players, all very good signings, part of this revolution and this evolution at Celtic. They easily go up there. The joint top scorer in the Scottish Premiership this season, the most clean sheets in the Scottish Premiership this season, and one of the best January signings in the Scottish Premiership this season. 3 very talented boys, and yeah, pick themselves, don't they? Mikey Johnston. It's simple for me. What now does Mikey Johnston offer to Celtic? I feel like I've had this weird vendetta against Mikey Johnston ever since I've had this channel, to be quite honest. But time and time again, I've wanted him to come back from injuries and come back when he's been in the team to give us something and to put his career onwards and upwards. And we've never got it. We've never got it. And how many times can you say that? I know he's still young, but we've got other players who are just so far ahead of him in the pecking order. I think we're beyond the move for a loan. There's actually players who are not here that I wish were here to discuss, like the likes of Adam Montgomery, who was on loan to Aberdeen. He's not in this group of players here. But Mikey Johnston's, yeah, move him on. I think it's the best thing for him at this point. If he wants to play football, he's got to move on. Where does he get in? Does he play a cup game every now and then? I think if I was him, I'd want to challenge myself and move on as well. I know Celtic is probably the biggest team that will play it at this point now in his career, but injuries have hampered him, and it is a shame, but I don't think he's good enough. I would be selling him, personally. And King Julian himself, he likes to move it, but he'll have to move it out the door, I believe. And I've not really had the chance to sit down and talk about Julian after everything that's kind of transpired over the past week. He gave that interview to the French media. There was obviously a lot of clips that the body language police were pulling up from him on Trophy Day. Ultimately, I think that him and the club know that his time at Celtic is over. He sounded very sort of bitter in that French media interview. He was trying to force his way into the team, it sounded like, almost, and that's just not going to happen, is it? With Starfelt and Cameron and Carter Vickers playing the way they are, I just thought Julian probably went around it the wrong way, and if he does want back in this team, he's certainly not going about it the right way, and I think that both him and the manager will now be looking at options to see him leave the club, which is a shame to a certain extent, because I loved Julian, and that 2019-20 campaign was short-lived because of COVID, so we never really got to fully appreciate everything about Julian when he came in. But he's one of those kind of cult hero figures, isn't he? He gave us big goals, Lazio, Rangers in the cup final, and I'm sure that we'll always remember them, but he's just not going to get back in this team now, I think. And I know a lot of people are still advocating for him to get in over Carl Starfelt. That's just never going to happen. Let's go for the ultimate quick fire here. Let's just put everybody who's an important player into the important pile, because let's be real, there's so many here we don't even need to discuss, and I'm just wasting time by doing so. Juranovic, player, what a signing. Kyogo Furuhashi, player, what a signing. And been one of the most entertaining players I've seen at Celtic in my entire life. Matt O'Reilly, just a phenomenal footballer. Big future. 20, 21 years old. Scary. He's younger than me, I think. That's terrifying. I kind of kick my own arse and he's doing what he's doing. It's unbelievable. Callum McGregor, he goes right to the top of the pile. You know, there should be a section for Callum McGregor, specifically designated for him. Captain Cal. What a season. What a debut season as captain. And a player of the season winner, quite rightly. Tony Rauston. Yeah, he's probably in squad. Let's be real. I mean, I think he's an important squad player, but he's not like on the level of these guys here, is he? He's not. He's definitely at the top of the squad pile, but he's not going anywhere, and he's worked fucking hard, and he deserves every bit of credit for what he's gave us this season. But he's certainly, I think, squad sort of player. Greg Taylor as well, same as Rauston, I think. Brilliant second half of the season. Do you know what, actually is a first team player, isn't he? He's on the team sheet every single week. Our best 11 includes Greg Taylor. So Taylor probably deserves to be up there as well. David Turnbull, phenomenal player. And someone else that deserves to be up that sort of area in the pile right now. All of those players that I've just moved into important, and Tony Ralston, there's nothing that needs to be said apart from they are instrumentally important to what we've done this season. The season that's just ended. And they're going to continue to be instrumentally important and what we do next season as well. So, yeah, very easy to put all of those players up there. This is where the discussions sort of have come in now. Karamoko Dembele. It's the biggest willy won't he in football history, I think. Especially Celtics. Will it happen? Will it not? I don't think it will now. I'm at the point where I'm like, right, okay, how, when does that happen? There's no point in saying find a loan, and we're just going to keep giving him year extensions every year to try and convince him to stay. Let's cut to the chase. He's not going to get time at Celtic, is he? I don't think it's going to happen, and I am desperate to see it happen. I think that he's someone that we've spoke about for that long that we all want it to happen. We all want it to happen. I got interrupted there, sorry. But I just don't think it will. And I'm just being 100% honest and saying, I don't think necessarily he needs sold, but I think he will be. So I think he'll move on from Celtic. I don't think he, at the point of his career that he's at now, wants to be playing B-team football. I think he wants to be playing first-team football. And he's not going to get in over Maida. He's not going to get in over Jota. He's not going to get in over Abada. He's not even going to get in over Forrest at this rate. I think he should get in over Forrest personally, but he won't. There's just too many players there that he's not going to get in over, and I think that his time at Celtic is dwindling to an end. I think it's finally hitting that point. I'm sure discussions will go on for both sides of the party, and we'll see what happens, but I'm just not hopeful, I must admit. James Mcafee, he's signed that long a deal that he has to be in squad, doesn't he? But what was the signing of James Mcafee? Celtic fan and all that. Love it, big man. Live it and drink it. I bet he's chuffed. He's won a league title with Celtic. He's won a cup and a title with Celtic in his first season as a lifelong Celtic fan. I've been buzzing, and I'm buzzing for him in that aspect of things. But why did we sign him? It's just such a stupid signing, really. But he is in squad. He's not going to go anywhere. We signed him on a 4-year deal. So we're kind of backed into a corner when it's up here. I think he's also at a point in his career now where he's been hampered with injuries that much that he's not going to go anywhere better than Celtic. I'm surprised that he even came here in the first place, right enough, but he's not going to get any bigger or better than that. I don't see the Premier League opening a door for him once again. I think it's now at the point where he's just probably going to simmer down and settle here at Celtic until he calls it a day. So we've kind of been backed into a corner with the squad option on James Mcafee. I think a lot of people might be like, I'd just get rid of him, but He'll be on a decent wage, I think, and for a decent amount of time, so that's just not going to happen. And I think he's probably happy doing what he's doing. He's probably quite influential behind the scenes, I'd imagine, at Lennox Town. So there's probably positives that come with James Mcafee as well. Liam Scales, the loan. I don't want to be quick to say sell him yet. He's only been here 5 minutes, but is he going to be good enough? Is he? I really want him to be, and of course he chipped in with a couple of big goals this season. Brilliant goals at that, but I'm not entirely sure. Maybe loan him out. He's not going to do much. I know you could say he's a squad option, but how often? This second half of the season, I can't remember seeing him once. That's not much of a squad option. Liam Shaw. I'm just going to be honest. Wasn't really impressed with what I seen of him at Motherwell. Wasn't an Ange Postecoglou signing. I liked the look of him in early pre-season, but I think our standards were so low at that point in time. We were just hoping for something positive after the season we had to endure beforehand. I don't think he's good enough to be a Celtic player, just like his Sheffield Wednesday counterpart, Osaze Origide. I don't think neither of the two are going to make it at Celtic. And I don't think any of the two are in the manager's plans, to be quite honest. None of them were his signings. And how little involvement they've seen as Celtic players, I think shows that. And I don't think their loan moves have been exactly great. Osaze could actually go over to the Belgian side. Forgot their name now. Jack Hendry went there. Slipped my head. But he could go there. They could exercise the fee on the buy-in option. But the fact that we put that option on that, I think, speaks volumes as to whether or not we want him here at the club. So, yeah, maybe TikTok is where Origide belongs. I don't know. I feel harsh. I feel really harsh. He seems a lovely guy, brilliant guy. And I want every player's moves to work out at Celtic, but I just don't think him or Shaw have got the minerals to cut it here at the club, sadly. And then finally, the last two players I think easily pick as well. I think Welsh goes into that squad area for now. Decent enough when he's been called upon this season. I've been very critical of him in the past, but I think he's happy. I think the club are happy with his development as well. And then Sorrow, I think, goes into the sold pile. I think that's basically all she wrote for his Celtic career too. So I think it sort of picks itself again with Ismaila Sorrow. So yeah, that's it. That is my tier list. And I think that, yes, it's pretty... Everybody will be subject to their own opinions as to who ranks where in these tier lists, and etc, and whether you think any of these players should stay or go, or the same up here. It's all subject to opinion, but I think that this once again shows that despite all of these players being ones that we won't necessarily miss if they were to leave, it shows the exodus that's still to go on at Celtic. This is amongst a lot of other players. You know, there's some guys, like I said, Montgomery, who isn't here. I think you've got guys like, young Robertson as well, for example. There's other guys who are out on loan that aren't in this list who'll probably be down in these kind of free columns as well. So, there's a lot of players to leave Celtic. You count here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 players leaving the club if they were all to follow through under my tier list. It's a lot of players to lose. So it's still a weird transitional time at Celtic right now. But that's how I'm going to leave it. That's what I think the kind of status quo is at the club right now. And let me know what you think in the comments below. I've enjoyed that. I enjoy a tier list. Now to go and do the horrible editing part. Like and subscribe. See you all next time.